Joining us on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line is a man who's been covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers forever and a day for the Tampa Bay Times. Back here on the program is Rick Stroud. How are you, Rick?
Hey, Rich, never a dull moment. How are you doing?
I know that, right? So, best you can tell, what happened on that sideline in MetLife yesterday with the Bucs and Brown?
Well, I mean, I've sort of tried to piece it together as best I can. I don't know exactly what the conversation that, Bruce Arians and Antonio Brown had on the sideline. I can tell you that Arians was asking him what was wrong. Is something wrong with you? And I don't know what Antonio Brown's response was. We know that it wasn't an injury, according to Bruce Arians. They obviously have a process for that, where you go to a trainer, and the trainer will tell the coach if you're out. And the next thing Bruce says, because they were in the middle of a drive, he saw Antonio walking, half naked through the end zone. So, in Arians' mind, he quit the team. Now, he's not being very forthcoming. Obviously, there was some flashpoint, and maybe Bruce is unaware of exactly what set Antonio off. But, we saw Mike Evans come over, obviously, and try to talk him into not doing what he was doing. And, as soon as he decided to quit, that can be interpreted as conduct detrimental, whatever. And we don't know if they're going to release him today or what list he might wind up on. But his Bucs career is through, and it's still, there's still obviously a side that Brown has not told yet, I suppose. But, we'll see what he has to say, if he has anything to say at all.
Well, so lots of questions, because based on Brady's response to it, and calling for compassion, and also a call for Brown getting the help that he needs, along with the reaction that Brown had, whatever the blow up was, on a sideline for a team that kept him despite the fake vaccination card that he handed in a story that you broke a few weeks ago, means there had to have been something going on behind the scenes. There had to have been something that we don't know about. Is there any sense that you can give us about what that something may be?
Well, I think in general, and this is a generalization, but ever since this thing happened with the suspension, I don't think Antonio, since he returned, felt the same relationship or closeness with the organization for whatever reason. Okay, maybe that was because, I don't know that the Bucs are at fault here. I don't know how to quantify that, because that's Antonio's perception. But he definitely had a streak to him. We talked to him after the game, when he had the 10 catches for 101 yards at Carolina, his first game back. And he was paranoid. He was sort of accusatory. I don't know who he was directing it at, the media. He said people were trying to frame him. They talked about drama and all this sort of thing. But there was a general sense, I think, among the team that he believed that something had changed, right? That they, he had the suspension. I don't know what he expected the Bucs to do about it. He got 3 games, not 6, not 8. He continued to work out and rehab his ankle at the facility. But this guy, he's sort of a time bomb, Rich. He's done this to every place he's ever been. I don't know what his issues are. Before he joined this team, it was, anger management and Tony Robbins and I'm a change, all this stuff. I think Tom Brady really wanted him. I think Tom really cares about him. I think that's why Tom said what he said. I don't know if Tom has any particular reasons to be worried about AB in the short term, but yeah, it's just, I guess it was inevitable, but I do think that Brown, according to some people I've talked to, just felt like, things had changed when he got back from his suspension.
Things had changed. They kept him, and then they used him, and then they employed him, and they kept him employed, and they, 100 yards receiving in an NFL game is no small feat, and he keeps doing it. And I don't understand, which is why leads me to believe that he might not be able to control this. And so, and then you see him that with his bag, and he's waiting for a driver who becomes famous because, they post it out there, and he doesn't seem to care that he has a Hall of Fame career in front of him and can live out his days as a Hall of Fame athlete, as opposed to some guy who reacts in a manner that makes other people famous for 15 minutes. It just makes no sense to me, Rick. Nothing on that.
Yeah, I think you'd probably need a lot of time and more degrees than I have, or you, Rich, to try to figure out, what causes Antonio Brown, to react the way he has. He's an absolute talent. I think the Bucs. I think sometimes too, these teams see the talent and they really want it, right? And obviously Brady did. And again, I'm not doubting Brady's, sort of affinity for Antonio Brown for however short or long he was with him in New England. But I know Tom cares about teammates. I think he feels he's in a position to help people. And at this stage of his career, that's what he wants to do. I think he tried to help Antonio. But in the meantime, Tom's about winning. And he absolutely knew Antonio Brown would help him, and did. And he caught one of the touchdowns in the Super Bowl. And he put a ring on his finger, and so that's important. There's a trade-off there, right? And I think, in my mind, Bruce Arians absolutely would not have entertained the idea of Antonio Brown. 6 months earlier, he told us it was too much diva. He didn't want any part of him, if not for Tom Brady, and took him into his house, the whole thing. And I mean, look, Brady has rewarded the Bucs and everybody with the Bucs, for pulling off what was a remarkable, Super Bowl run. So the fact that they re-signed him again, it was kind of a surprise because there's more legal trouble and entanglements in the offseason. He was the last guy they brought in here. They waited until 2 weeks, and the waters had calmed down after he settled with his trainer. Trouble was never that far away from Antonio Brown, and it found him again. They took some shots for standing by the guy, Bruce in particular, and it came back to bite him. And, why are any of us surprised? I don't know his issues. He seems very selfish to me at times. He certainly, he didn't help Tom Brady. Here's Brady sticking his neck out for him, and they're trailing in a game by 14. He decides he don't want to play. I don't think that's how you reward somebody that has gone to bat for you, know.
Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Anything to the incentives? Anything about that?
No, because listen, he was very close to making $1 million. A couple catches here, a touchdown there. I mean, a year ago they ran with Ronald Jones needing about 21 yards to get 1,000. They ran at the end of the final game of the regular season 2 or 3 pop passes. You know what those are? You just go in motion and essentially a glorified frontal handoff, but in the air, which counts as a reception. They ran 2 or 3 of those to get him $250,000 at the end of a game. I can't believe for a second that you're going to do that as an organization and then, say, well, we don't want him. We're not going to play him as much because we don't want him to make $1 million. Nah, that clearly wasn't the case. And anybody that suggests that is kind of reaching. That much I can assure you. Why he would leave that money off on the table, though, is surprising, although he hasn't been very smart, getting fined. I mean, I think it cost him close to $300,000 for the fake vaccination card issue. So, $10,000 to a chef that he settled with before he came back. I mean, all these things sort of build up. There's always this sort of explosion point. You can kind of see the warning signs, and then it happens. And it's like I think I said this to you when we were texting last night. One of my favorite phrases is that, you can lay down on hay and you may get 8 hours sleep, but you're going to wake up scratching, and I think the Bucs are itching pretty good today.
So moving forward, Rick, I mean, the bottom line is the two of Tom Brady's best wide receivers will not be available to him. Fournette is banged up. Levante David. How do things look for a Bucs team that is definitely going to have to play a home playoff game in less than 2 weeks, unless they play that Monday nighter. It's 2 weeks from tonight. What do you have for me on their readiness for the title defense when the rubber meets the playoff road? Rick?
Yeah, I got nothing but more clouds. I mean, Ronald Jones has an ankle they're doing an MRI on. Keyshawn Vaughn has some rib damage, but he thinks he might be able to go. They're hoping Giovanni Bernard comes back from IR. I mean, this thing is dark and gloomy when it comes to weapons, but, Tom Brady does more with less and has in his past. And Mike Evans was out there. He was playing. He made some plays. Cyril Grayson has come out of nowhere, LSU track star, and suddenly looks like a Pro Bowl receiver. And Brashard Perriman's made a lot of plays in this league. You still got Gronk. You still got O.J. Howard. You still got Cam Brate. They're not going to just go in the fetal position, I can tell you that. Defensively, they got to get Levante back, which they think they will. They need Shaq Barrett, obviously. But the secondary is fairly healthy. So they'll make their run. I mean, you've got the GOAT. If they win another game, Rich, and if the Rams lose to San Francisco, who's playing to get in the playoffs, all of a sudden the Bucs have the 2 seed and 2 home games, and they'll roll the dice if they got to go to Green Bay again. And I think that's the best case scenario, and I wouldn't count them out, man. I didn't think they were going to go 93 yards against the Jets, and score with 15 seconds either yesterday.
I know. That's the Jets, Rick, and that's the number 12 in that building against the Jets. So, come on, man. I mean, I could have told you that. You could have texted me in the middle of that moment. I'm like, the minute that the Jets went on 4th and 2 and wound up sneaking it, apparently that was an audible that it was supposed to go to Berrios on one of those jet sweeps, and instead Zach Wilson went. I mean, I could have told you that. But what about Shaq Barrett and Levante David? I mean, and Fournette. What about those 3 guys in particular?
Well, I think they're optimistic they'll get them back in some capacity. I think Levante will be okay. Shaq, I'm not sure about. Although it's not an injury that necessarily would prevent him from playing some in the playoffs. The question is, what? Just because you're out there doesn't mean you're effective, right? Like, okay, he's out there, but is he able to be Shaq Barrett, or is he able to be Levante David? So these guys, all got bites out of them. Obviously, Fournette did with his hamstring. Evans has battled these throughout his career, so he knows, how to come back from them. His wasn't as severe. They'll line up. They'll all play. It's a second season, as you know, Rich, and to have a home game. These guys have been really good at home. They'll figure it out. I just it's been a lot of adversity this year with the injuries. That's the only difference between the 2 seasons. They've actually been better overall. This year, I think. I mean, they're going to win. They beat Carolina. They'll win 13 games, first time in franchise history. Back-to-back 12+ win seasons. Brady having another. I mean, there's a lot of good that has happened. Even though this thing with the Jets didn't look good, but I would never count them out. I swear to you, I wouldn't. I could put holes in every team in the NFC and show you where they're vulnerable too. So we'll see. We'll see who they have. That's going to be the key.
Talk about things that you can't make up. Right? Is that? Maybe it's going to be Le'Veon Bell, who Tom Brady leans on because Brown is gone. You can't make this stuff up in the NFL. So last one for you is, what do you think Bruce Arians is thinking about tonight when he pours himself a couple fingers deep? What do you think? What are you thinking
Well, maybe
about?
This afternoon. I don't know if he's going to wait.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. I know that. So,
no kidding.
What do you think? What do you think he's thinking?
What he's thinking? You know what he's thinking is one thought, Rich, and he said it. He said it after the game. I've got Tom Brady. I've got Tom freaking Brady. Mm-hmm. Anything's possible, man. He's won 7. He's been to 10. That's a heck of a place to start. You got to slay them. You got to slay the monster. Somebody's got to go out there and take it from him. I mean, he's unbelievable, and that's the just like yesterday. And you say, well, the Jets, I get that. You know what? He had Tom Brady, so everybody on that team, and in that organization, they believe they're going to do it. They will find a way. because of number 12. That's all he's thinking about right now.
Rick Stroud, thanks for the time. Let's do it again. Happy New Year to you and yours. Appreciate it.
Take care, Rich. Happy New Year.
You bet. That's Rick Stroud at NFL Stroud on Twitter. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.